A level 4 yellow warning was issued by the South African Weather Service for areas in the Garden Route and Karoo. Several roads in the Overberg, Cape Winelands and Garden Route were affected by floods. Well, disaster management teams have been assisting with relief efforts in the affected areas. So let's get an update from the Chief Director for Disaster Management in the Western Cape, Colin Deiner. Colin, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I can imagine what a busy few days it has been for yourself and the organization. Well, you started with painting a picture really on your understanding of some of the worst hit areas and perhaps just how serious of a situation it was that you found in some of those areas.
Yes, good morning, Naledi, and to the viewers. Yes, so we received the warning on Friday already for a level 6 wind and rain warning, and then it was upgraded on Saturday morning to a level 9. So the winds came through Saturday and Sunday, and we had that very strong prefrontal system. And what happened there was it started up to 14 fires across mostly the western part of the province. We had massive damage at an informal settlement in Kayamandi in Stellenbosch, where almost 1,000 people were displaced. And then very high winds damaged informal settlements in Luandli. And we also had some houses that were damaged in the southern peninsula in the Glenkern area. So initially we were dealing with a lot of fires and high winds. And then as we went into Sunday evening and Monday, the level 9 weather warning for rain, disruptive rain came in, and we saw a lot of rain. Fortunately, the rain moved through the center of the province rather rapidly, but yesterday we saw a huge amount of rain come in over the Overberg district and the Garden Route, the George Knysna area. And we saw up to 150 millimeters in some places. Rivers were overflowing. Some of our dams, we saw, for example, in the Garden Route, at the Garden Route National Park, we had 200 millimeters in 6 hours. And then we had rivers going to 120, 150% of their capacity.
Goodness.
So been a lot of water damage, a lot of wind and fire damage. So it really has been a very busy 2-3 days that we've been dealing with.
I think once you also see the images of the flooding, I can imagine just how difficult it was then to reach particularly vulnerable areas, right? I mean, talk to me about the efforts that you've used there. And then where you've seen people then displaced, how have you worked to assist them?
Yeah, so displaced people, we have a system in place, what we call our humanitarian cluster. So our Provincial Department of Social Development works with a number of NGOs. And we activate, when we got the warning, those NGOs were already activated and put in place. So people were reached, food, blankets, essential needs were distributed as soon as we could do that. In terms of where people were displaced, they were put into community halls. The National Department of Human Settlements has now come in. They do an emergency housing grant, so they're busy working on that at the moment just to make sure that the people are just able to recover again. We also had situations where people were trapped, and specifically in the Gamkas Kloof area in the Karoo yesterday, we had a car that was trapped between two flowing rivers, so we had to send our emergency medical services helicopter out to airlift those people. So there's been a lot of those kind of incidents that we've had to deal with. It's incidents across the province, and with a lot of roads being closed, it really meant that we needed to, spread our resources, use use off-road vehicles to reach certain places. But generally, I think we have actually achieved, the objectives we set to ourselves.
Yeah. Can you assist me with some of the numbers, just where we're sitting right now with the numbers of displaced people?
Yes, at the moment, the last count we had was around 2,500 people were affected. Displaced is around 1,000. A lot of the people that were affected went to, and it's something that we often see, when we have informal settlement fires, is people tend to move in with family, friends, that kind of thing. People are very reluctant always to move away from the sites that they were occupying, even though it has been damaged, although we make the facilities available. So we are pretty much dealing around, I would say, between 2,000 and 2,500 people that we still are providing assistance to.
Yeah.
Just an idea, we've had 149 schools that have been damaged. So, that's another challenge that we're facing.
Yeah, can you perhaps talk to me about the sort of efforts that need to be put in place then to mitigate when we see extreme cases, particularly for some of the more vulnerable areas? I mean, the issue around drainage systems certainly has come up, particularly in areas like informal settlements. I mean, the sort of solutions that need to be put in place in your view, and if you think that there really was enough time and preparation for the storms that we saw over the past few days?
Yes, and I think that the issue with informal settlements is they are very difficult. By their very nature, there's not been too much planning that's gone in. What we do every year is we have a distinct summer season and winter season in the Western Cape. In the summer, we have a lot of fires. It's dry, so we prepare for that. In the winter, we prepare for our winter season. So we actually prepare for a lot of flooding. We prepare for high winds. And it's not rocket science. A lot of stuff is just like you say, cleaning drains, making sure waterways are open, ensuring that we can divert water, those kind of things. So, in informal settlements, there's generally assessments done and efforts are made to try and ensure that if we do get this type of rain, that we can divert. High winds are always going to be a problem, and especially if it's as big an incident as this, that's really very difficult to manage. With this specific incident, it came very early in the winter. Our winter season has not even reached us yet. It came very, very early in the season. So although there was a lot of planning already in place and we did a lot of prep as from last Friday, it is a challenge to cover such a large area when it comes to major weather events like this.
I think what was really strange about what we saw over the past few days was it was the rains and prior to that, though, of course, a fire. So disaster management working with, a double whammy, if you will. Fulani fire victims there, hundreds of them having lost their homes. And you could perhaps paint a picture for me about what that area would have looked like, where hundreds of people have lost their homes due to a fire and then are rebuilding in this weather that we saw.
Yeah, so that's why we always use a concept that we call day 1 to 3. And that's the first to the third day of an incident. And those are really the days where it would be very difficult for anybody to even consider rebuilding. So those are the days where we really have to move in, use our partners, NGOs coming in, working with us, making sure that the people are just sheltered, taken care of, and then starting to work on a rebuild. So weather services have fortunately informed us that this weather system is now over. We can now come in, City of Cape Town, for example, and many of the other municipalities will go in and provide assistance to municipalities, to affected people, just to clean the area up, assist with planning. There is the work then with National Human Settlements to provide people with resources to rebuild. So you really have to look at the damage, look at what's the best way to reestablish people, and then work together with the communities to make that happen. And that is what is busy taking place in the city now and as we move on in the rest of the province.
I think when you talk about the non-government organizations that then step in and give aid, I immediately think of just how much goodwill we do see from South Africans when we see disasters such as these. I mean, talk to me about the team of disaster management, the people that make up that team, and really just the levels of commitment that you saw. There's always that story of people going above and beyond to assist.
Yeah, I think what's really important is disaster management is not just government. Disaster management is really a whole of society approach. We have our sort of like regular partners like Gift of the Givers, the Lions Club. We have an organization called Heal Our Land, and they are continuously calling and saying, look, what can we do for you? Or they already respond and move together. In the province, what we try and do is we coordinate everybody's activities to make sure that everybody is reached and there's no duplication. But then you also get so many outside organizations, businesses coming in, the government itself. Just to give you an idea, our joint operations meeting we have every morning at 8 represents more than about 87 organizations that come in and assist. And, there's never a question of us having, if we need something to be done, it gets done. Somebody would come up. You even have to mention people like the South African Police Services rescue units. They come in, they do what needs to be done. So I think the effort, we've seen it. This is a third big flood in a year. in the Western Cape, and we just see everybody coming in and assisting, and that really just makes my job so much easier.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to leave it there. Colin, thank you so much for speaking to us, and I think an important discussion. Continue the work that you're doing, of course, to help those that have been hard hit by the inclement weather and even fires that we saw hit to parts of the Western Cape. The Chief Director there for Disaster Management in the Western Cape, Colin Deiner.